Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 147 for May 5th, 2015. Is that? It's 555, isn't it? That's cool.
Yeah.
5515, whatever.
5515. Yeah.
All right, anyways, my name is Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Bruno, one, the special guest coordinator, and this week the editor.
No, you're not. I'm editing this week. Again, because you're editing next week.
Sweet.
I'm Funny Guy 317. I am the media manager and editor for this week.
God, life's good.
And I'm Matt Spark. I do questions, deviant art, and all the other behind-the-scenes stuff.
And he's also the editor this week.
I am also the editor this week.
Yeah, we got 4 editors here today.
Yep.
We're all
Apparently.
the
We're all gonna type
full
on the
of
same
transitions
keyboard.
and like flying text and just crazy colors and like PowerPoint slides. It's gonna be great.
Did you guys ever see that like stupid CSI-esque show that at some point there was some sort of like hacker hacking into the system?
That was NCIS, and yes.
And they were typing on a keyboard, and all of a sudden they were just like, move
two
over,
of them.
and they would
Yeah.
start typing on the
that
keyboard.
was... God, I wish I knew both of their names. It was like, not Ducky, it was the doctor. Damn. I knew both their names, but yeah, it was NCIS, the first one.
Yeah.
It's a pretty...
I watched that show.
There's a whole... I had a debate at work a couple weeks ago about the fact that like these shows just seem to be like one-upping each other for stupid tech things. Like there's one show where they were like flying... A plane was taking off, and inside the plane was some computers. And one guy ran an Ethernet cable from the plane and passed it down to a car that was driving underneath. And they plugged it into a laptop. And then they were like using that to like hack into something.
Why
And it
don't
was
we
just like
just-
as the plane was taking off, and it was just like, this is the stupidest thing, but like there must be some sort of competition between these shows to come up with the stupidest tech thing that
Yeah,
people
it's great.
might believe.
That's
Because like
crazy.
the NCIS was never dumb with tech stuff. Like some stuff they were, but they were never like explicitly really dumb like that. So I felt like they had to have known like this is the stupidest thing ever, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
don't know why they just didn't make an ad hoc Wi-Fi network.
Apparently the plane scene was on a show called Scorpion. I'll link you guys it after the podcast's done.
With a name like that.
Yeah. You know it's good.
You know it's got to be good.
You know
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. Didn't like that NCIS scene end with like some guy just unplugging the computer?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
it did.
unplug it. Genius. Give this man $4 million.
Yeah, it was
And a TV show.
yeah.
It's done. It's done.
It was Gibbs, the main
Yeah.
character.
Mm.
The actual smart guy, like came up behind the computer and unplugged it.
Anyways, you two are gone next week, and I've been waiting
Yep.
for you to transition for like 3 minutes.
It would if either of you would be quiet.
The whole reason I'm editing this week is because I'm gone next week, and I didn't want Byrne to have to edit 2 weeks in a row. Although he's probably going to edit 2 weeks in a row after that, so
That's fine.
we'll see.
And I'm not going to be here because my holiday this weekend got delayed by the apocalypse. The weather in the news, people were touting it as the apocalypse. It was like an almost cyclone that hit us like the last 2 days.
Mhm.
And because of all the rain and the grossness, my mini holiday has been postponed.
Oh, how are you enjoying your fire and brimstone?
It's enjoyable. Yeah. This is warm.
Your country's been trying to kill you for the last year.
Yeah, it has.
It really
We've had-
has. Like,
We've had like 3 cyclones and this and like a couple other big heavy rainstorms, but like it floods everywhere because we live on like a floodplain. So
and like at some
Yeah.
point it started raining frogs, right? Yeah.
Just locusts or just a casual Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Well, that's too bad.
I
man.
should be
Well,
worried because I'm the firstborn in my family.
well, that's too bad, but it's good that you could kind of reschedule it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Hmm.
Do you know,
Let's go
like,
next week.
do you want to give any more information about like what exactly you're doing, or?
I guess I'm gonna go hang out with Nezzy Goring for the weekend with Silver and Sarah's mom.
Cool. Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah.
Say hi to her for us.
We're gonna go to the zoo and stuff.
Nice. Which is like
Yeah.
their
Fun.
apartment, right?
Yeah,
Pretty much. With all the life-size plushies and stuff, yeah.
and snakes.
Yeah.
Snakes on a plane? Sorry, I was just watching the plane video. That's ridiculous.
Dude.
So
Nerd joke. Sorry.
I had.
uh,
Oh, you were gonna say something?
yeah.
Okay.
You should like draw a Cartesian coordinate system and put a snake on it. And then
Why
it would
did
be
I let you
Snake on a
speak?
plane.
Why did I let you speak? What? No. My goodness. Oh my goodness. You are the biggest dork I know. You know that.
Yeah.
So I had an interesting Friday. It's the reason why I sound tired. None of you have excuses, so I mean, well, that's not true. Joel, you have an excuse. It's like
Yeah.
8 a.m. But I'm pretty tired today because I had a really interesting day today. So I work at EA. This is actually exactly the halfway point because I'm working on an 8-month term started in January. And so what EA does is they will give budgets to teams, much like any other company, to do team building exercises every quarter. And it was just coming up to the end or something like that of our quarter, so we wanted to use our team building exercise budget. And so what we did today was we went out to see the new Avengers movie, Avengers Age of Ultron.
Nice.
And so we got our entire, half the studio or so to go out to this, obviously paid by EA, which is really awesome. But it was timed in such a weird way. So the movie started at 12 and our work day is 9 to 5. So we end up getting into work and settling in at 10, getting an hour of work done. And then at 11, we all have to go out to the movie theater and drive there. And then by the time the movie is done, it's 3 because it's a really long movie, and then we have to drive back. So what ended up happening was no one on our team got any work done today because everybody got in and kind of was didn't have enough time to really get into their work, and then it was so late that we all just decided to go home at 3:30. So it was a really interesting day where basically today I was paid to go watch a movie. But in addition to that, part of the reason why I couldn't do work in the morning was because recently my bank account got put on hold because I had tuition refunded to me from my school. And so when the tuition, I had to deposit tuition check, which was a lot of money, and then have that transferred out to my parents' account. So, then the bank was like, that's way too much money for you to be transferring. You don't normally have that amount of money. It might be fraudulent.
No way you could have that money.
Yeah, so they put a hold on my bank account, which wouldn't be a big deal. It's only a 2-day hold, right? It's not a big deal, except for the fact that the one time in my entire existence that I've ever needed cash was today.
Oh man.
Because today, May 1st, when we're recording, is the day that my roommate is moving out. And my roommate is the owner of the router. And so I saw him this morning and he was like, hey, I'm moving out. And I was like, oh, it's great. It's good to see you. Good luck in your future. And he's like, I'm taking the router. And I was like,
taking the internet with me.
And I was like, no, you're not. So he was like, all right, but I paid $30 for this router. And I was like, I will pay you $30. And as soon as I said that, I was like, oh God, I have no way of getting $30. So this morning I had to go down to the bank, give them a call because I couldn't do it at that branch, and get them to unblock my account. So today I went down to the bank and then I watched a movie, and that's been my day.
Did you have to sell yourself to get the $30?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't have to. But I did manage to
But you could.
give them a call and immediately have them take the hold off, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a crazy day that consisted of absolutely zero work done.
That's nutty.
Good Friday.
Yeah.
You should get better than a $30 router.
Well, no, the router doesn't really matter because the router. So the way that my internet's set up in my house right now is downstairs on the first floor because I live on the third floor. On the first floor, there's the modem router combo, and then the problem is that the Wi-Fi signal doesn't reach up to us. It's very bad. So what has happened is we have an Ethernet cable that comes up to a router that's right outside my door. And then we use that router to route, 2 signals up to me for my computer and my Xbox.
That's what we do for my side of the house and then my parents' side of the house as well. So my dad has his own router.
So, I mean, we didn't need a really good router for that second one. We just needed something that could split Ethernet signals, right? So, $30 routers was all we needed, and it's been great so far.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Anyways, that was my day. So I'm quite tired because between seeing a 3-hour movie and being out in the sun after like being cooped up all winter and it's finally being sunny outside. It's like my body's like, I can't handle this heat. Go into turtle mode. So I'm pretty tired. Mellow podcast this week.
Was that a throwback to last week's episode?
What?
Going into turtle mode.
I'm so confused. What did we do last week?
Last week's MLP episode, not
Yeah.
our CAC episode.
Oh,
it's
okay.
tricky.
Sure. But by the time this comes out, it won't be
Hey.
last week's. Womp
Yeah.
womp. Anyways, shall we art?
Yes.
Sounds good.
So the first piece of art that we have for today is called Things May Come and Things May Go by AJVL. And this is a piece of Fluttershy from Friendship Through the Ages.
I believe this is a piece of art featuring
Through the
Fluttershy. It's not
ages.
actually a piece of Fluttershy.
It's actually a lump of her hair.
That's
I
disgusting.
think all drawings of Fluttershy in a way are a little piece of Fluttershy.
Oh my god. I might be tired, but there's no tolerance for that. You sappy little horse.
Speaking of
Sapling.
sappy,
It is sappy. You are right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sweet in a way.
Mhm.
It's very cute and there's kind of this sense of not necessarily innocence, but kind of youth and calmness. You know, you've got little tiny Angel Bunny who's not portrayed as if he's often portrayed, which is a bit moody.
Evil.
He's quite cute in this piece and subdued. And of course, you've got Fluttershy, who I'm not sure whether it's the combination of her expression, what she's wearing, what her hair is. She looks quite young, is what I'm trying to get at.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think with the like portrayal of youth or someone looking young comes innocence, like that
Right,
just kind of comes
exactly.
along with that, you know.
Yeah,
and so
I
like
agree.
the dress that she's wearing is kind of like frilly and does look kind of like a girl skirt, I'd say, kind of like
Right.
a younger outfit, and she's got very large eyes again as well, and like tied back flowy hair. So there is kind of like a youth innocent type of deal that I'd say comes along with it.
Mhm.
That and like the little butterflies floating around her. Kind of like a little
Yeah.
magical thing, you know,
Yeah, I
kind of
mean-
like very Disney-esque and Disney-esque, I feel.
Yeah,
lends back
It's
to
like it's Sound of Music like
kind of stuff.
almost.
Yeah, kind of Sound of Music. You're right.
Mhm.
Fluttershy always kind of gives off the sense of innocence to her, right? It's part of her character, and I'm sure part of it, in a way, is us kind of seeing her character and attributing a bit of her personality that we know into that character as
Yeah.
well.
Well, not only just her character's portrayal, but even the background as well. So like a big sweeping open field in somewhere in like where would you call that? It looks like Northern Europe to me, maybe.
Yeah.
It's
Something
actually
like that.
Northern Equestria.
Yeah, sorry, excuse
it's
me.
Scandinavian. It's got Scandinavian feels to it.
Clearly,
Yeah.
but a big open field like that's very secluded. It's away from society. It also lends back to those same feelings that we were just talking about, you know?
Well, and
Mhm.
open fields often give this sense of kind of freeness and
Yeah.
calmness to them, you know?
Yeah. I think the lighting in this piece, just like getting to the art, kind of also brings kind of a brightness to it. It's like I don't know, it's a combination of like the golden yellows at the bottom and like the blues and whites and stuff at the top.
Well, she's almost spotlit in a way by the light
Yeah.
because of the way that the background seems dim compared to the quite saturated yellows of the grass or whatever that is at her feet. So it does look almost as if she's highlighted by the sun, and it's spotlighting her in a way.
Yeah, really awesome use of like separating basically like her from the background with this warm and cool. So like her like drawn in like pinks and like warm greens, and obviously her skin tone, and then having like the blue and darker green background. Like AJVL's always been really awesome at that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there is definitely a clear separation between foreground, midground, and background here, where the plants at the bottom are in the foreground, and she, as well as the yellow grass, I'm going to call it, is in the midground, and then you've got everything else separated quite nicely into the background. There's 2 points of separation. One you mentioned, which is the colors in Fluttershy and how that contrasts against the background, but also the rather hard line between the gold and yellow grass and the darker grass, and the difference in color and in value between those two.
Also, again, the between the dark green and the trees.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
But I think by the time you get to that point, it's all background, right?
Even this that kind of like layering though, and how it's set up, since it's so vertical, it feels very subtle to me. It doesn't feel very
Yeah.
pushed like in something like an Assassin Monkey piece, where the foreground and
It's quite
then
clear.
back and midground and background are very like distinct from each other, you know?
Yeah.
Where this one kind of it rolls back like very vastly and just kind of
Yeah.
sweeps back almost like it seems slightly flat, but like obviously we can tell that it is realistic-ish
Yeah.
portrayed. You know?
I think part of the thing you get with this kind of resolution, it's 850 by 1869, so very, very vertical, as you can see. Part of the thing that you get from that is it manipulates you in a way to look at this piece quite vertically. Your eye goes up and down. There's not much left and right you can do.
Yeah.
And so it in a way, it kind of forces you to look at each of the foreground, background, and midground on its own, and it kind of gives a natural progression to them as you look from the top of the piece down or the bottom of the piece up. And so it's not very harsh in its separation of the two, or the three,
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah. Although it is interesting, like you mentioned, there are like these clear separations between the yellow grass and this dark green grass, and then there's another section of like lighter green grass that's being lit probably through the clouds. So there are these kind of steps that you can definitely see, but I think it all like blends very naturally together.
Yeah.
It's gonna be kind of hard to display on the screen because of the resolution. So,
Yeah.
as always, we recommend people head on over to our DeviantArt page, cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. Head on over to our favorites folder where we favorite all of the pieces that we feature, so you can see it in full resolution.
You should then flip your monitor sideways. And,
Reset your aspect ratio.
Yeah, it does. It's easy when you're zoomed out for the subtleties of the piece, like the brush strokes, to kind of disappear. But as you look at it closer up in its full resolution, you can see quite clearly a little bit more roughness in the brush strokes and a little bit more looseness there.
Mm-hmm.
Gives it a lot more character.
Yeah, I think so. Gives it
Yeah.
good texture, which I think
Yeah.
comes out quite nicely. It's subtle, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, visually we connect with texture when we see it, and gives kind of metaphorically it gives our brain something to grasp to when we see like the image, even though it is digital and it's done digitally with digital faux brushes, but it's still naturally we really like that and we connect with it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, AJVL's done a lot of like portrait work lately, and I think that he's kind of used that work in this piece just on Fluttershy, because she came out really well, and definitely kind of goes with the piece instead of contrasting out from it.
He's been doing almost like studies, right? Of like blown up, like what is it? I would say the Equestrian Girls-esque look, but very original to his own, much more realistic. So, but still in like the style of Equestrian Girls, but really, really nice portraits. And this is kind of a step back from that really realistic portrayal, and her in much closer to the kind of Equestrian Girls simplistic but really cute style. And I mean, it's just Fluttershy in a profile, right? So there's not a lot of like complex shading and depth and volume, but it's still present, like in her legs and stuff. But just from her face, it's kind of like a very again, I'm using the word innocent, but side profile. Something that I wanted to point out that I really enjoy as well is this landscape that he's built basically around Fluttershy, to place her in, that we were kind of talking about. It's very sweeping. It's also vertical, so it's very tall from the grass and stuff in the bottom all the way up to the sky in the top. But it's built perfectly for her, right? So that's the fun part of making landscapes, and what AJVL really loves doing, because that's what we knew him for, like way back in the day, is like all of his really awesome landscapes. But I mean, as an artist, you build those, right? So it's built around Fluttershy as a way to direct your focus directly onto her. And I love how all these sweeping, like these big mountains that come down, that's why I say on Northern European, they kind of remind me of the Alps, is how big they are in these big valleys. They all point directly at Fluttershy and converge directly on Fluttershy, right? Because like when you're walking through like a valley, like valleys don't just magically converge directly on your person, you know? So like you have to have a subject place them in this environment or in a valley, and then perfectly line up the valleys with them if you were doing photography. But as a painter, you can paint an amazingly surreal scene like this and just have all the crevices of this huge valley just point directly to like the midsection of the character, and the colors are even contouring like her face and stuff, and it's just really fantastic.
Yeah, and also on the bottom of the piece, the plants are all kind of pointing inwards towards her.
Yeah.
Almost like there's some sort of barrel distortion. And there's a little bit of a vignette around the edges, too, that kind of drives your focus right in.
A vinaigrette.
Raspberry.
The best kind of arts.
What, edible? Like cake toppers?
Edible art. Ooh. So yeah, I really enjoy this piece. I think it's one of my favorite pieces that he's done, and it's the background on my phone right now because of that. So
I guess that would work quite nicely in terms of resolution.
yeah,
Yep.
you still have to crop it, but
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but it just gets sort of like some of the sky, and you get to see
yeah.
a lot of the part that your eye is really directed towards.
Yep.
Speaking of phone backgrounds,
Mine is a
our
special.
next piece is quite
Yes.
is similar resolution, so I'm sure it could also work for that.
Vertical art pieces, the perfect type of art pieces for our show.
Not really, but hey, I like this one. It's called The Olympian 6 by Inky Psycho. It's my one, by the way. I should say that.
Inky Psycho, cute name.
Inky Psycho. Yeah, it's the main 6 characters in like Greek Olympiad uniform type things.
We're really good at history on the CAC.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if anybody's noticed.
I wasn't
but,
prepared to go next, so that was my
I'm just gonna say it's Greek in general,
deal. Yeah.
and someone's gonna be like, well, actually, it was formed in Rome.
Pre-Stein Christian European Rome.
Dates back to the early first century. I don't.
negative 200 AD.
So it's
Anyway, you guys are
it's got
dumb.
some it's got some interesting concepts here. It's a very busy piece, which is quite interesting. It's got a lot going on for it, and in a way it's almost chaotic in that sense, because every single character has the thing that they're doing and the uniqueness on top of their own character, and then it's all blended together, and then in addition to that there's even stuff in the background as well that kind of overlays too. So it's quite the busy piece is, I think, a good word to use for it.
Unfortunately, the way that Inky Psycho made this caused a lot of JPEG compression, so you can't really blow it up too big or view it in full size. But looking at it this size, it's great.
Well, there's some sort of texture on it. It looks like.
Yeah, but if you like look at it in full size, you can see it.
Oh yeah.
Sadly.
Well, let me do just that.
But yeah, something I really liked about this is if you look pretty much directly in the center, Rainbow Dash is holding like a stick thing, which is blowing a bubble, and then the bubble negatives the colors that's behind.
Yeah, it inverts the colors.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting touch. It's kind of I think of the whole scene as kind of, I don't know, maybe surreal's not the right word, but it's definitely not real, and yet everything's kind of interacting with each other as if it was real. Pinky's pouring her wine out and it's hitting Applejack's cup, and Rainbow Dash's bubble wand is affecting the view of the colors of the things in the background.
It's inverted, by the way. That
Yes.
bubble wand, everything below it, just straight up. Really, dog? Just inverted all the colors on it.
And there's kind of this interaction between each one of these individual scenes.
I think my favorite part is Rarity and Spike.
Yeah.
Rarity's got a ribbon wrapped around Spike.
Yeah.
yeah, in the bottom corner there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how like each one of these things could be taken as separately, except wait, they can't because of small interactions like that. There's other ones like Twilight doesn't have a huge amount of interaction with anything else, and Rarity doesn't have any interaction outside of her own scene, and I think Fluttershy also doesn't really have an interaction outside of her with I'm assuming it's a dragon of some sort.
Yeah.
But then you have those small other bits of interaction as well.
Yeah.
Look at Rainbow Dash's face.
It's a really, really big eye.
They have big round faces, you know, like it's very
Yeah.
circular heads, and their
Cute.
eyes are very big to go along with them. It's very
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
On Rainbow Dash, it's I'd say most apparent.
Yeah.
Pinkie Pie a little too.
Yeah, it's true. I'd like to know, obviously a lot of these are based off of something, and I wish I knew a little bit more about the lore to be able to tell you exactly like what is Fluttershy supposed to be representing, and
Yeah.
what is Twilight supposed to be representing. Because I think, in a way, I'm not sure of this, so perhaps this isn't true at all, but I think they're supposed to be representing Olympians. So I would be interested to see.
Well,
Maybe I'll Google that while you guys talk about the piece.
Yeah, it's Greek or Roman mythology, right? So they kind of have bases in certain things. So like the wine being present is a very Greco-Roman thing, and then the leaf on Fluttershy, or not Fluttershy, excuse me, on Applejack. So like there's a lot of different things, or like the wings present on like Rainbow Dash is like a very Hermes-esque thing, along with his like staff, even though he didn't really have a bubble staff. He had a staff with wings, which is like the staff you see hospitals have. Is associated with him.
Yeah.
And then
They're
the scythe as well, that the sickle, I guess, that Applejack has.
So there's a list here. Fluttershy is Pan.
Yeah.
Pinkie Pie is Dionysus. Rainbow Dash is Hermes. Twilight is Athena. Rarity is Aphrodite. And Applejack is Demeter.
Yeah, I was gonna say that as well. So
So it's based off of the 12 Olympians then.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Fluttershy is who my cat is named after, by the way.
Nice.
Which one?
Syrinx.
You've got more than one cat.
Syrinx.
Syrinx.
Yeah, Syrinx is probably based on Pan.
Yeah.
I really like the hard shading in this piece.
Mm.
It kind of gives it almost like a papercraft kind of feel.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still looking up stuff. Like, I want that list in front of me because I'm flipping back and forth between the Wikipedia article of the 12 Olympians and this piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
between the paper texture on things and like the texture on Applejack's basket, and like you said, the hard shading, it does feel kind of like very clean cut. You know, it shows kind of like paper crafty.
Yeah.
The texture's
But
very
like-
subtle, though,
Yeah.
Like, the color definitely overwhelms the texture more so.
Yeah. It's a very, I'd say, just a sharply cut. It's like digital style that lends itself to be, very unique to this. Like I really like the layering of colors and the cloud that Rainbow Dash is sitting on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Looks like the Nimbus cloud from Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
They're making
Well, that
use
even
of
the
that.
Nimbus cloud is based off of
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
mythology.
Yeah.
Did you hear they're making a new Dragon Ball Z?
I did.
I did. Unfortunately, I haven't watched the show in like 12 years.
Yeah.
So,
That's right. I've never watched it. I've seen like one episode. Nothing happened.
it's pretty good.
I like Twilight's pose in this piece. I don't know why, but she just like, she's so like, it's not really stern, but like, I don't know, empowered, I guess is the right word.
Mm. Yeah, I
Like,
don't
she
really
just-
know what the right term for that expression would be.
Yeah.
It's almost a face like, what the heck is this kind of face,
Yeah.
Because like it is a stern face with one eye down, but it's kind of that look you give someone when you're like, "You serious? Like really?"
Yeah.
It's
and
not,
but
it's
it's
not
different
curious.
than
I'm trying to
Applejack's
think.
look. Yeah, it's not that curious face, but it's different than Applejack's because she has the same kind of eye almost, but her eye's a
Yeah.
little bit more open and she's smiling.
Twilight's
Yeah.
looks suspicious in a way,
Yeah,
like guarded
that.
and like what is that, but in like a kind of guarded way,
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
an inquisitive look, if I can use that word, which would fit kind of her character portrayal here, being the intelligent one or a theorist, if you will. Theorist, is that the right word?
I don't know.
Interestingly,
Maybe.
the text that's on the scroll flowing down from Twilight is Homer's Odyssey in the original Greek.
Oh.
You looked in the comments for that, didn't you?
I did.
The word
Nice.
the word I was looking for is philosopher. Like
What-
like if you think of famous like Greek philosophers, like
Oh,
it's
a
very, very big
philosophizer?
part of Greek culture. Yes,
Philosopher.
that word.
Yep, philosophizer.
You mean you guys couldn't read the scroll?
Philosophicizer.
Velociraptor size.
Philosiraptor. Okay.
I like philosophy. Speaking of which, there's a new Jurassic Park coming out soon.
Oh
Joel.
my goodness!
I think you might be confused with our alternative podcast, the Movie Art Crusaders.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right? Yes.
I'll say for that then.
Mention like 4 pop. We're this podcast sponsored by the movie industry.
I'd be happy with that.
I'd be happy with any sponsorship. Hey.
Hey.
Anyways, let's move on to the next piece. I really like this piece, and I think it's really
Yes.
cool. And it could also fit in a phone background, but we should move on.
Hmm.
Okay, I guess it's mine. So the very next piece is called Bird's Eye View by The Wizard of Art, and it depicts Ronbu Dashu floating freely in the clouds, kind of taking a moment to relax and enjoy the sensation of flying.
Hmm.
Rombulius Dashmondu.
And this was, of course, done as a watercolor, I believe, by the Wizard of Art, who is quite famous among us at least, for doing some of the most spectacular watercolor art pieces. So much so that it's almost hard to tell in some instances that it's watercolor, because we cannot quite fathom the level of detail that you can put into this kind of stuff. But as you can see in this piece, you can do quite a bit if you're a master of watercolor.
Hmm.
I want to strangle you.
Wow. Out of context.
Well, that's out of context. So Joel wanted to feature this piece.
I wanted to feature this one like since it came out because
See, but you say
one
that
of my
as if you got
favorites.
that over me. You know,
I
like
do.
you say that as if you've
I
got
had
that
it in
over
my
me.
favorites before you did.
I've also wanted to feature this ever since it came out. There's
I
no
favorited
difference.
this before you did.
I got here first, and I put it as my piece. Look, you should look at it
I'm
like
older
this.
than you, so therefore I'd
You
say
should look at it like this, Joel. When so I've had this happen with Burned before. So Burned just picked an art piece, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I really would have featured this. You should look at it like this. You got to feature 2 art pieces this week, right? Because this would have been your first choice, and I'm doing it for you. And then you also get your other one. So you get to feature 2 art pieces. So why don't you
Yeah.
talk about this art piece?
You're
I'm gonna
welcome.
talk about this art piece. This is like the combination of every single thing that I love in art. It's watercolor, which I love. It's a weird perspective, which I love. And there is like flowy movement, great coloring, and just everything about it is fantastic. Except the strange little face, but I don't mind it.
It's not a strange face. It's a good face.
It's
Yeah.
it's odd face. It's like
I'm
really shaped.
from a face expert. That is a perfectly fine face. It is
It's a long
relaxed.
face.
It is content. No, it's not.
She's
It's just
a
the angle.
horse.
It's kind of
That's a great point. She is a horse.
She's allowed to have a long
Why
face.
Anyway,
she's a
but,
horse.
like just the technique that the Wizard of Art has used, and their watercoloring in this is just incredible. All of the clean lines, all of the splodges, all of the
Spludges.
there are quite a few splodges.
Technical term.
Yeah, that is the technical term for dabbing watercolor on paint. Yeah, splodge.
Yeah,
And
I'm-
the way that they haven't let anything sort of run out of where they would like it to be, and there's nothing sort of misplaced. Everything is done really, really technically well.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, the Wizard of Art is fantastic at that. I'm always amazed. You know, when you think of a character design, right, and you think of like, let's give a character rainbow hair. You know, you immediately like sit down with that person and you're like, all right, let's talk about why you're wrong. You know, like this seems silly. This seems over the top and whatever. I always find it amazing when you can take a character like Rainbow Dash and her kind of character design and just the way that fans and fan artists kind of interpret that and make it shine in such a way that makes it a really positive thing, like in this piece, you know, the way that it stands out and looks quite beautiful without being this huge ugly spot of vast saturation, you know, amongst an otherwise peaceful piece, you know. And that's what this piece is. It's quite serene. It's quite peaceful despite her flying. It's got a lot of like smoothness to it and a gentle feeling to it. And so he's subdued the colors in a way here, so they're not like crazy saturated. And it somehow makes a rainbow in a pony's hair and tail subdued and fits with the rest of the piece, which I've always found spectacular. And so many artists do it quite well. And part of it's character design, of course, but a lot of it is the way that it's interpreted. And for example, in this piece, it's works with the mood of the piece in a way that I personally couldn't do myself.
Well, it's like with any character, you have to kind of choose your colors to blend in with the style of the piece. So in this case, this piece is very serene. Like there's a lot of not saturated like colors in it, and the Wizard of Art does a very, very good job of choosing which colors to use. Whereas in like a piece by Io Picchio, for instance, like everything has to be saturated, otherwise it won't blend in with the piece.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying that saturation is a bad thing, but it has to fit like kind of the mood of the piece and the character as well, the mood of the character, which is why it works on Rainbow Dash. But yeah, like for example, in those pieces by Io Picchio, whatever, those are like the focal point is the saturation, and so the artist then works with it to make it stand out because it's supposed to, because it fits the theme of the rest of this piece.
Right.
Whereas this one is very subdued.
Yeah. I like how the Wizard of Art did water in this piece, actually. If you look at like the pond on the right side of the piece.
It's very subtle.
Yeah, there's like blue in the center, and then it's surrounded by this white. It's
or I'd say lack of pigment, because the purest form of white you don't do in watercolor. It's actually just the paper. It's the paper that you've left to show that value, right?
Yeah. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, I like the little bit with the bush to the left of her face, like on that little tiny bush, and that's reflecting a shadow onto the river. And you notice it has a very deep blue shadow. It kind of shows that it casts a different quality of shadow onto the water. Actually, I like that little bit.
Would you say that is a green bush and a blue horse?
No. Yeah, I mean, there's are those bushes or are they trees?
Bit of both,
right? Because
bit of this, bit of that.
So the way that I look at it is
Bit of something else.
the bush or tree that's casting a shadow into the river is a great example. But then you look at around at the rest of the pieces or the rest of the green bush tree things, and they all kind of cast their own shadow in interesting ways. And so what it kind of says to me in a way is that the scale in which we're looking at the land is quite far back, and what we're viewing of the land is that lake is actually quite big and that river's quite big, and then you have trees alongside the river. And when you pull back on the scale, you know, the trees become quite small, although it is hard to tell because you can't see any
because you're so far up, and how they are portrayed is quite subjective. You know, it's quite just like simple in their value. Like we can definitely tell that they are said bush or tree. But I definitely think you're right. The fact that we are up so high and can see the clouds so large, or even the clouds are a bit small because we're even pretty far above the clouds. That
she's actually orbiting the Earth right now.
Themselves to be like trees, but it's just the ground itself is so simple. You know, it's just that green wash that.
I think the correct term would be foliage, to kind of give like halfway in between bush and tree. Foliage, I think. I'm probably using that wrong. Whatever.
It's interesting because the background is very kind of flat, but it works in a way in this piece because we are up so high, so you don't really need these perspective cues in the background because you know that that's the background and Rainbow Dash is the foreground, and it works because of, you know, the distance between her and the ground.
Yeah, I'd say it's very map-like too, because I mean it does show some kind of, what you'd say, detail in how the wash changes like kind of value and rolls, you know, and the basic grass like area that I'd call that grass, you know. There is some kind of variation, was the word I was looking for, in how the watercolor and pigments are there. So it's not just like flat. You can definitely tell that it has some like detail or I don't know, ground-like qualities to it.
Yeah, and
but
I mean,
it is very map-like, you know, simplistic.
From a bird's eye view, the ground doesn't exactly have a huge amount of depth, right? So it's not the same as like looking from like eye level view. You have a huge amount of 3D space, but the Earth itself is quite flat relatively, and especially this kind of grassy area, I'm sure is not very hilly.
Yeah,
and other than the water itself,
flat depending on where you are.
Yeah, but there's no mountains here, right? There's no huge hills. The depth that we're given is the clouds, right? But even when you ignore the clouds and you look at the ground itself, it's obviously not.
I think the important bit is that we all recognize it as the ground, and we all recognize those as some form of trees or something that is big, but since it's so far away, it's much smaller in comparison to something like Rainbow
Yeah,
Dash,
and
right?
I think that's
Mhm.
important because I think you can kind of make these kind of backgrounds in such a way that it would be harder to tell, and I think it speaks to the skill of the Wizard of Art um, to be able to convey what he's trying to convey in the setting using simple, just a couple of colors and shades.
Yeah. I mean, either that or Rainbow Dash is just really large and rolling around in the grass.
They're tiny, tiny streams in a puddle.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, we should probably move on to our last piece.
Yes.
Bernd, it's
Alright.
you. Bernd,
It's you.
it's you.
Hi. So the piece that I chose is called, I have no clue, Penne, I guess. Penne, like pony,
Pony.
but Penne.
Pony.
I guess so, but with no O.
So
Yeah.
just a bunch of capitals by Quiet Victories, who is a Russian artist, I believe. I'm actually going to double check. Yep, so from Russia. I was guessing because there was Russian in the bottom of the description.
With love.
But I really enjoy the type of work that this artist does. So this is a traditional painting, and it's scanned, and in the description of all of these paintings that this artist does, there's a lot of them, a lot of commission work as well. He has the word, how was it pronounced again?
Gouache.
Gouache, thank you.
Yeah.
Which I actually had to go look up on Wikipedia. But gouache is a type of painting, just like in the painting we just saw, the watercolor painting. It's very similar to that, where it's a very strong pigment that you will mix a medium into, like what would be water, but gouache painting uses something different. In Wikipedia, it says it's usually gum arabic, but it basically turns something that would be watercolor, so mixing a pigment into a medium, but instead of being transparent like watercolor, it's opaque, so you can't see through the pigment itself. And so you get a very, very like thick, almost crumbly looking paint quality that comes with something like this. And it's quite unique, I'd say, especially within, our little fandom. It's just a few episodes ago we were talking about how we have so many different qualities of art styles and stuff, and different types of things. And this artist, I'd say, definitely has a very unique like style characteristic in the type of work that he does. And I really wanted to feature it, and I definitely liked the kind of visual stuff that's going on in this piece as well, very specifically. There's definitely something really cool going on in how it's painted, in the type of like technique or style that is used, not just from the gouache, and the very opaque pigment and how messy and heavy-handed it is to this, but since it's done traditionally, there was some traditional tricks going on, and I actually want to try to decipher some of them. So if you look at this piece, you'll notice that there's a lot of very like vertical striations or vertical lines going on that visually it's almost very confusing. And what I think it's blue tape. So, or maybe there was tape on it and some of it was removed and some of it wasn't. So if you looked at certain areas, like it's very easy to see in the top of this painting, you'll notice that there's these stripes of paint and some of them go onto the outside of the paper, but then other bits of them are still left, and you can see where it's very like clean cut. So there was like tape placed on this piece, then tape removed, and then painted over, and then tape placed back on, and then painted over again. And in some areas, it looks like there's even tape left, like if you look at the left-hand side of the painting, those strong blue areas to the left of Applejack's face, it looks like there's torn bits of tape and like blue tape left there, right?
Mhm.
So
yeah.
it's like part of this kind of crazy stuff that this artist is doing and playing with to paint this picture of like angry Applejack. You can see like bits of it left, creating what for me is like extremely visually interesting and also just really, really cool to kind of look at and try to decipher how the artist made this kind of crazy thing that we're looking at. And I really enjoy the like strong bits of blue and then and then like kind of more, I'd say, dulled oranges in Applejack. But very cool stuff. I'd be really interested to know what you guys think.
I'm glad that you mentioned those stripes because I wanted to talk about the fact that it seems to be in a traditional medium, but uses something that is when we look at hard lines and those stripes like that, that'd be easy to do in digital, right? You've got different techniques that you can use to manipulate the canvas and cut chunks out that are quite even. But obviously this was made traditionally, so I was curious as to see how the artist did that. But you brought up a great point about the tape. I didn't even think about that, but you're absolutely right. There is obviously a huge amount of evidence of a material like that used to carve out these segments, and this kind of, it gives the sense almost like a glitchy feel to it. There's pieces to this puzzle that have been shifted around. It's almost like there's a full piece that was made and these little strips have been moved up and down slightly. Obviously the most obvious place that this is present is in her eye, where it's kind of almost as if there's one piece that's moved up a little bit and another piece that's desaturated in a way. And so the piece is almost chunked in a way. And I'm quite impressed at the effect that that's able to create when I know that this is created traditionally, because I would normally associate that kind of glitched look to a more digital medium.
It almost reminds me a lot of like Picasso's later works, where he did this kind of like chunking and more, not really abstract, but more surreal designs of characters. Like Applejack as a character design is fairly close to a pony, but there's these like bits that are shifted, like you said, and it reminds me a lot of his work. Also, if you ever get a chance to see a spray paint artist at work, they use some pretty interesting tools as well, which kind of mask the paper and stuff.
Tools and a lot of unique layering as well.
Yeah.
Because like spray paint itself, it's a thing of like you spray paint an area and then you go over it again and then you leave part of it revealed and then part of it not. And then, like using edges of things to get like sharp lines versus the gradient of, like a spray can. But just traditionally, there's a lot of interesting things you can do, whether it's using, tape like in a piece like this or certain tricks when you're spray painting. But I feel like when I was painting ponies in art class, my art teacher was trying to say to me, like, think about what you want to do in your art as like part of an artist statement or something, more artsy that someone within the art world would respect. And I feel like this piece has those or has those features that like as an artist I would be striving for. And there's just a lot of really cool things going on, and just like how it free and like heavy-handed it's painted. One of my favorite words to use when I describe paintings like this is grotesque. Like it looks really gross, and how some of the stuff is just like painted and caked on there, but in a really good way, in an aspect that makes me really love it, and how it's just kind of really just caked on there. You know what I mean? And like I was just saying earlier, where like we enjoy texture or like texture, like this one's a bit more subjective, but I really enjoy the sheer amount of like raw texture that's put into something like this, that I really like attach to it physically, because like one, it is physical, it is tangible. This is a traditional piece. And something else that I noticed while I was looking at it that I didn't notice when I was going to bring it up the feature is there's definitely this like layering of tape, but I don't know how much layering of tape. It could just be that there was a painting done, then tape put over it, and then painted again, and some of the tape was removed, or there could be multiple layers. I definitely don't know. You'd have to look at it a long time to try to decipher it. But something very interesting is if you look on, it's very apparent on the right-hand portion, to the right of her ear. Do you see where like the blue tape is gone and there's that kind of blood red like background on the very right hand side in the middle? You notice those little pink brush marks there? Yeah. There's like very bright pink aspects in the background that is underneath the taped layer and the blue layer. And so it's almost like there was a painting of something like nice, like maybe like I don't know what it means. Maybe it could actually be a painting of Fluttershy because she has pink hair, but there is a complete like contradictory color there of like pink and white being put in that almost looks like flowers or something, and that's again slightly apparent inside of her ear and also above her left ear. There's those pink again that's shown underneath the tape. So there was actually some kind of painting that we can't fully see underneath the painting of the tape that happened. And whether the artist wanted to color it up or the artist just wanted to do something visually interesting is we don't know, but we still like see bits of it or like whispers of it,
Yeah. It's interesting.
It's quite a unique piece, and it's got a lot of very I'm going to use the word unique again, things going for it. And there's lots of stuff to kind of analyze this piece. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to do all that, but I would definitely recommend checking it out kind of in person and seeing it in its full
Yeah.
resolution, which is massive, by the way.
One
Yeah.
last
Oh, yeah.
little bit that I did want to point out is just like I noted the vertical striation type of thing going through, but it kind of like breaks up this like plane in which she's painted on, right? So like her face has like these vertical lines kind of making it go up and down almost as if it was like a shattered mirror, and I think that's one of the coolest portions about this as well.
Have you guys seen this in its very fullest resolution?
I'm trying.
Yeah, I did for a second.
You can see like the edges of where, Bern, you were talking about the whole tape effect.
Yeah.
It almost looks like cloth because of the way that the edges are.
Yeah.
And you can see the tiniest little details in the paint that's put on there.
Mhm.
I highly recommend that people go check this piece out and go look at it in its fullest resolution, because the level of detail is quite staggering.
Because there's so many crazy things you can do, too. So, like, if you look at her eye, that little bit of paint that's, like, the blue part of her eye, like, her main biggest eye there, you see how that little bit of tape is, like, right above that? But yet, if you follow that same piece of tape, it blends into her hat and stuff? Like,
Right.
it's almost as if the artist was painting onto the tape, lifted up the tape, moved the tape, put it back down, and then painted back over it again, and then left some areas not painted over. So there's so many crazy things going on that it's almost impossible for us to decipher something like this.
Yeah. Well, something that's interesting too is like even just from painting walls in my house, like the time that you let the paint dry makes a big difference in like the edge quality. So going back to what Max was saying, you can get like this variation. I'm sure this artist did that quite a bit in there by letting certain patches dry before removing the tape, or just like leaving it wet. And
Yeah,
removing
even the
tape.
opposite, like leaving it wet and then working wet on wet.
Yeah.
The classic
Very
oil way
cool.
to do things.
Yeah.
Like, look at her eye. It's like yellow, and then the tape's ripped off, and then it's red. It's like, oh, so
Questions time.
Yeah, okay, this is me. I can do this one.
Hey.
So, questions this week. If I had the thing open, which for some reason I don't. So, 2 questions this week. First one by Citizen Smiley. Have you ever had second thoughts about your cutie marks and special talents?
So I'm assuming you mean
Yes.
horse companions,
Yeah.
because I do not currently have a butt tattoo. Second
Not
thoughts about your
currently,
cutie marks
but-
and special talents.
I got a tattoo of
Um,
my butt on my butt.
It's
Buttception.
a full butt tattoo of exactly what my butt looked like before.
On my butt. Yeah.
So for me personally, when I created the character, it started with the visual look of the character, and then I crafted things around that. So if you're asking me, did I ever have second thoughts about the cutie mark and special talent? No, because I thought them through, the story that I have for my character and the design and things like that. They're all kind of crafted, and I'm quite proud of them. And so it doesn't lead to a lot of second thoughts, because I put in a lot of time to making it something that I'm happy with. And then it slowly evolved into my character, as I've told the story many times, as it represented me on this show. But the whole reason behind creating the character was for it to be a cohesive character with a sane backstory. So no, I haven't had any second thoughts personally.
Yeah. I'm the opposite. Complete opposite. I'm a bum. Like, I literally just made my OC in a couple of seconds just so I could be a part of some silly birthday vector for some silly horse.
That's me.
That was Joel, yeah.
Hey.
So, like, I was like, I have long hair. I have really long hair. I like long hair. I'm going to stick Fluttershy's hair on here, make an OC. And then I was like, I like Rainbow Dash's tail, but without the rainbows. And then I liked Egophiliac's bat ponies. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be like that because I like those. But then I didn't like the bat wings. I thought it was too edgy 5Me. So I went with a Pegasus with fuzzy ears and stuff. But it eventually morphed through method of this OC that I really enjoy and has changed, obviously, a lot. But my cutie mark is always stuck because I've been too lazy to think of a cutie mark that I actually enjoy. And I still don't know a cutie mark that I enjoy. But vectors is what got me started in the fandom. So the vector tool is what's going to represent my special little talent. Because it's that if I really want to get cutesy with it, I'm literally pulling this out of my butt, but the cutie mark is the event in which sparked your special talent or what finding of your special talent, right?
Sure.
So vectoring is what sparked me into like being a part of this fandom and finding My Little Pony and doing the things that I'm doing right now. So it's cute enough to where I feel like the vector tool can stay on my butt.
Absolutely.
Yours should just be a
Aw.
picture of Blitz Pony's face.
It's true. No, I
Could be
think
that as well.
I think that's a great point, Bern. First of all, I don't think you used the word literally right, but the second thing is
Quite literally.
I've always maintained quite strongly that Cutie Mark is about the event in which you realize your special talent, not supposed to be directly correlated to your special talent. So that you are absolutely using the Cutie Mark correctly, and therefore
By your definition.
it's not, well, no, because I've got proof from the show. But
Yeah, it's
But
the
yeah,
event.
like,
It's not the thing, it's the event.
yeah. So I like
canon.
I like the way that you described that. It's not a generic like pen tool thing. It's like, no,
Yeah.
this legitimately got me where I was. So makes sense.
Mhm.
What about the Quiet Crew? What do you guys?
Hey.
Nope.
What about you guys?
Happy with mine.
Yeah, I'm happy
Cool.
with mine too.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
I like it. We got another question to get to.
Yep.
good.
Okay. So second one is by Solid Blitz. What's your favorite? We modified this one, so it's going to be, what is your favorite of these things? Mammal, bird, fish, reptile, amphibian, insect, or dinosaur?
Do you want to say that again? But like slowed down, like slow-mo guys style.
Mammal.
Why do I even
Oh.
try?
Shut your mouth, Joel.
Bird.
The question is, what's your favorite mammal, bird, fish, reptile, amphibian, insect, or dinosaur?
Amphibian,
I hate you
insect,
so
I'm gonna
much.
cut you from this audio.
So much. So the original question asked us to name our favorite from each category, and that's ridiculous because there's no way we'd ever be able to do that question. So we're going to name our favorite category out of all of those, which will be on the screen. So I'll start out, and personally, I'm going to go with bird. I really like birds. They're cute, and if I was going to be an animal, I would be a bird, so I like birds.
Mammals,
Cool.
because fuzzy.
Is it because you are one?
Yeah.
Because fuzzy.
Ah,
Okay,
Fuzzy.
I like it.
yeah. To be different from the rest of the crew, I'll go with reptile.
Reptile.
Is it because you're cold-blooded?
Or wait, are geckos reptiles or amphibian?
I'm pretty sure geckos are reptiles.
Yeah,
Okay, because geckos are cute,
they're lizards.
Bam.
and yeah,
They got
lizards are
slitted
cute,
feet.
and they can climb up walls and stuff, and
And we get loads of them,
admire
right?
that. I admire that trait.
You get little teeny ones that makes
Clown
go,
balls.
oh, every time.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, Burned. Last but not least, what is your favorite out of those categories?
Dinosaur, because that's what you are.
Thank you, youngster.
Your ideals are archaic.
Jeez, all right. I don't know.
I'm going to go with fish because you just quoted SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's what I was At least sea sponge.
I don't know.
Or starfish. Starfish.
I don't know. Lots of nature is cool. Like I don't have a specific this is my favorite part of nature. You know, like I don't know. When I was little, dinosaurs were cool, but bugs were cool as reptiles were cool. Like when I was little, I had a bunch of the books. You know, like
Yeah, me
books
too.
on every little thing. Like cool reptiles, like 10 coolest reptiles, whatever. In this stupid little science books.
What about
Mm,
AI?
it's
Can
good
I
stuff.
say Ultron is my favorite animal?
No.
I even had.
Have
I
you even
had a
seen the
fish-
movie?
I have
I
actually.
even
Really? Wow.
had a fish book that I liked that was like deep sea fish creatures, you know, like anglerfish and other cool
I
things.
didn't see the
I'm
movie.
gonna-
I read the comic. Mm.
I'm going to add
I like a bit of everything.
I'm
there
gonna add a category, crustacean, and I'm going to say Burn's favorite category is crustacean
because
Crab
I like
battle.
because of crab
Poisonous
battle and
frogs.
also because he's a lobster. So,
I'm gonna go with every single one. I like tropical birds. I like deep sea fish. I like poisonous frogs. I like
no, Burned. The
Komodo
question wasn't
dragons, I
and.
like,
We changed the question. You
insects
can't
and,
list
like
one from every category. We went over this.
It's too
You
late.
cannot do it.
I've already done it. I'm done.
Burned.
Dad, just edit
Question
out all
answer
his
extraordinaire
answers.
2015.
I like shiny rainbow bugs.
The answer to all
And
the
fuzzy
above is
caterpillars.
Velociraptor.
Yes, of course.
Because he's also a bird and a dinosaur.
So let's
Yep.
move on to the plugs.
And a fish. apparently.
And a fish, maybe. Okay, so we have all sorts of stuff. We got Picardo. Click on a link somewhere to get that because I can't say the link. We have DeviantArt, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. We got a Gmail address, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. We got the social medias, which is Facebook and Twitter. We are on Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook and at Cutie Art Crusade on Twitter. And cutieartcrusaders.tumblr.com.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yay.
All right. Well, before I wrap it up, does anybody else have anything else to say before we go?
I'm not going to be here next week.
I won't be here either next week.
It will be the Burned and
Maxington.
Pleasant show. Once again, I'm not pulling out the webcam, Burned. I really don't want to.
Yeah, that'll work.
So we'll leave the webcams off. But
I'll make an
yeah,
hour-long
we're-
video of my cat, and you can use that.
it's gonna be the two of us. Maybe we can get like a guest or something. Not like an interview guest, but like someone else to host the podcast or something. No promises.
Host
Dave.
them so we don't have to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
they can be the host.
Yeah, we'll figure
Speaking of guests-
something out.
Speaking of guests, did we want to bring up that thing?
We haven't sent out anything about that yet, so we'll do it next week.
It's cat. The guest is my cat.
Spoilers, Joel. Jeez.
Maybe
I didn't
special
say which
guest.
one I've got to.
We've got
Yeah.
stuff. We've got stuff coming up very soon, which is very exciting. And
Mhm.
the only thing I'll say about it is that we would appreciate once you guys find out what it is. We would appreciate very much if you guys could help us out with it and be able to spread it because we've got something quite cool coming up. But we will let you know about that next week. So please look forward to that, and you might hear about it before then, depending on how lazy we are telling other people.
Speaking of, did you hear the joke about the butter? I bet not tell you, you might spread it.
We'll probably put something out sooner because we want the word to spread
Yes. So
like butter, apparently.
yeah, you'll probably see it around the time that this episode comes out, or at the latest, you'll hear about it next week. So stay tuned for that. And yeah,
Fun fact, by the way, at the beginning of this podcast, like the first 5 minutes while we're doing the intro, I was actually eating bread with butter on it.
Why do I let any of you talk? like realistically, why have I done this to myself? Right? Like I think I'm being polite, right? Like I'll start talking and then someone else will start talking and I'm like, I'll let them talk. You know, I'll give them an opportunity to shine. And oops, I just hit my microphone. Well, look, we're all dumb. This is
Great
that's-
mental picture of you doing the shine and like your hand like whipping
it
across.
did it, and then it hit the
You
microphone.
jazz fingered your
That's
microphone.
it. I like it.
So I guess that kind of proves
Imagination.
that I am as silly as you guys are. So that's the reason why that's yeah.
You
Yeah.
humoring us idiots is what makes this a show.
Yeah, but see, I just proved that I'm also a dork because I just jazz hand my microphone.
Smacking yourself in the face.
So yeah. I guess that's the reason that I just answered my own
The
question.
name
there.
of this
Yeah.
week's episode is Jazz Hands.
jazz hands. All right.
We have a spoiler cast after this. Stay tuned for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's everything for this week. Hope everyone enjoyed this kind of mellow podcast. It's a little bit. We have these
Mellow.
every once in a while when we chill and sit together and talk about fun art stuff, or as I like
Oh
to
my
call it, fart
goodness.
stuff.
Oh my goodness, Joel! You saying mellow yellow just made me think of Fluttershy, and she's mellow, and so oh my god.
I was
Oh,
also
and
thinking this.
she's
We had like a mind meld
Oh
moment there.
my.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Thank you guys for watching. Whether or not you're on Picarto or YouTube, we love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Burned.
I'm Flutterguy317.
I'm Matt Mospark and I don't have a silly thing to my name this week.
And we'll see you
Aw.
guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.